Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing great and you're staying safe at home. I do miss you all, and I miss our class. And you can imagine how hard is it to talk to the computer. However, I do my best to make things clear for you with examples and so on. And I'll be posting on the Moodle on how you'll be able to contact me, and if you have anything that you didn't understand from that recording and so on. I will do my best, and I hope you're staying safe. Let's get started. As you remember, last time we have started a new chapter, which is about the types of different strategies that an organization can apply, and we have gone through different definitions of long-term objectives, and then we started at the characteristics, and then we differentiated between financial versus strategic. I'm skimming this very quickly because you have already talked about it a lot in class. And we have started our first type of a strategy, which is called integration strategy, if you remember. And we have differentiated between three types of a strategy. The first one, we call it forward integration, and that type of a strategy is actually about having or gaining an ownership or control over distributors, over your retailers. Okay, you are trying to control your retailers or distributors. While backward, from the word backwards, you are here trying to control your suppliers. And if you remember when you said the example of a Starbucks as buying or controlling a farm for beans so that they can always ensure that they have enough supply that's needed for them to run their activities. And then we talked about also the horizontal integration. And in that type, we talked about the strategy that organization is trying actually to gain control over the competitors, okay? And we have given the examples of Uber and Careem. So these are the three types of integration strategies that we have talked about, and we have explained the guidelines needed to consider when you are applying each of these strategies. Then, what I want you to make sure that while you are studying this chapter, because as we said, we're going to talk about 4 different types of strategies, and under each type, there are subcategories of strategies. And for each one of them, there are certain guidelines. So I want you to clearly understand the definition of the strategy, as well as what are the guidelines needed to apply that strategy. Like, for example, when I'm asking you about what is the situation where it's best to apply the horizontal integration strategy, then you might say when the organizations already competes in growing industry, for example, and it can increase their economies of scales to have a more competitive advantage. So you remember all these guidelines that will be helping you when you are answering questions later on. Okay, then let's say what else? Then we are gonna move now to talk about, and now we're gonna talk about the second type of a strategy that is called intensive strategy. What intensive strategy means? Intensive strategy, from the word intensive, we are talking here about it requires an intensive effort, okay, that for the firms to keep its competitive advantage and competitive position in the market. So for the intensive, from the word intensive, it means it requires intensive efforts from the firm in order to keep its competitive advantage in the market. So we define intensive strategies into 3 types. First one, it's called market penetration strategy. The second type, it's called market development. And the third type is product development strategy. The first type of intensive strategy, which is the market penetration strategy. That strategy means your organization is actually trying to increase the market share for the present, look for the keyword, for the present products or services in present markets, but through greater marketing efforts. Again, so when we are talking about market penetration strategy, we're talking about a strategy that the firm is trying to apply for their current products, for their present products and the present markets, but they are trying to increase the market shares through greater marketing efforts. We are speaking mostly about similar of a marketing strategy. So for example, increasing the number of salespersons who are going to sell for your products can be an example of part of your marketing penetration strategies. If you are trying to make more publicity efforts, like for example, if you brought Mohamed Salah for your advertising campaign for cola or for Pepsi or for whatever company, then in that case, you're using public figures to make more marketing efforts, okay, for your current products. You did not produce a new product. It's your still current product, and you did not enter a new market. It's in your current market that you're working on, but you're trying to do more marketing about for your products. And that strategy, in fact, is actually can be used in combination with other strategies. Sometimes it's used alone, and most of the time they can be used in combination with other strategies. Do you remember when we had talked before about the combination? Is it good or not? We said we cannot combine between 10 strategies at the same time, for example. But you still can, it's not recommended because you do not have enough resources and time and so on to combine. However, some strategies can work together, can work well together, can be combined. One of them is market penetration. So because it's mainly talking about making a marketing for your product. Okay, so that's what are the guidelines that I should be looking at when I'm applying the market strategy, market penetration strategy. First, when the current markets are actually not saturated with a particular product or service. What does it mean? It means that there is a chance for you to have more sales for your product. The market is not saturated. You did not reach the point that you cannot add more sales for your product or the service that you are providing. There is still a room for you to increase sales. So then if you added more marketing strategies, so more customers will be buying your products or using your service. But vice versa, if the current markets are already saturated, of course, in that case, market penetration strategy will not be the best. Why? Because you might consume a lot of money on your marketing strategy. However, you'll not be adding new customers. Or you cannot add more people to buy your product or service. So then you're going to lose money. So one of the guidelines when you are starting to apply the market penetration strategies is that you make sure that the markets are already not saturated. The second guideline is that when the usage rate of present customer can be increased. So you have some customers and the rate can be increased. So when you are doing more marketing for your product, you are expecting that the current customers or the present customers will be buying more. Okay? When the market shares of major competitors have been declining while the total industry sales have been increasing. What does it mean? Any organizations have competitors, right? So if they find that the market share of your competitors already started to decline, so there is a room for you, given that the total industry sales is actually increasing. So if you are working in a certain industry and you know that the sales can be increased, many people can buy that product, or they are looking for good quality products, and the competitors or your actual competitors are actually does not have their sales are actually declining. So there is a room for you here to play around, so make more marketing for yourself so that you can gain more customers that used to go to your competitors, but they are no longer going to them because as it's clear for you that they are declining. Another guidelines for market penetration strategy is that when you find that there is a correlation between the dollar sales and the dollar marketing expenditures that was historically been high. What does it mean as well? It means if you found that there is a correlation between the sales and marketing, meaning if you increase marketing, generally for this product, sales automatically increases. So that's, you find that if you find that guideline, so you might go for market penetration strategies. Also, a last guideline when you're talking about the market penetration strategy is that when increased economies of scale provide major competitive advantage. You remember also when we have talked about the economies of scale? So when you produce on a large amount, then you can gain economies of scales, and that will give you competitive advantage. So why do I say I'm going to produce in a large amount? Because if I'm making expected, because if I'm making more marketing for myself, it means I'm expecting to sell more. So this means I will be producing more, or I will be producing on a large scale. Okay, in that case, there might be increased. If I need to make sure that producing on a large scale will give me an economies of scales that will make sure that I'll be having a competitive advantage. Okay, so that's for the market penetration strategy. And to sum it up for that strategy, it means, we said market penetration means I'm trying to increase my market share, okay, for, again, keyword, for my present products or service and my present market through more marketing efforts. So I'm talking about marketing strategy, more of a marketing efforts, okay? And we talked about guidelines. When you do this, you have to make sure that your markets are already not saturated. You can add more customers. Your competitors are declining, but there is a room for you in the industry to increase when there will be increased economies of scale. The second intensive strategy, it's called market development. Market development means you are introducing present products or service into new geographical areas. Market development, you are trying to get into new markets in new geographical areas. Like, for example, if I'm already working in Egypt, but my industry and my factories are in Egypt, I decided to open or enter a new market in China, though no one will be looking for going to China these days, but anyway. Or I plan to open a new market in France or in Germany. So it's a new geographical area than the one I used to be. If I'm an organization that works only in the US, but now I'm planning to expand, to enter a new market with, again, the keyword here, my present product or service. So it's still the same product, the same services that I'm producing, but I'm just going into a new geographical areas. Okay, so I'm entering a new market. That requires lots of guidelines as well. Let's have a look at it. When it is best for you to apply the market development strategy? First, when the channels of distributions are already available and they are reliable, inexpensive, and of good quality. And we are seeing here new channels. Why new? Because you're actually entering new markets. Okay, so in order to enter a new market, and before you take that decision, you have to make sure that the channels of distributions are already there. You have different channels of distributions, and you know that they are inexpensive, they are reliable, they have a good quality. Because if you do not have channels of distributions to this new area, or if it's not possible for you to have channels of distribution that could be reliable and inexpensive, then it wouldn't be the right decisions to go for new markets. Imagine that you are planning to enter a new market, but you found that the channels of distributions are very expensive. Then it will be adding to your cost, and this means decreasing in your profit. So in that case, this might not be the best option or the best strategy for you to apply. Second guideline for a market development strategy is that when an organization is actually very successful at what it does. How is that? Why we're saying this? What do you think? By default, if you are not doing what you are doing well, why are you entering new markets? You should be doing or producing products in a way that's actually making profits, in a way that is successful, so that you can expand to a new market. But if you're actually not well, if you're actually not successful, it's expected that when you are entering a new market, you're going to lose. Or you are going to a new geographical area, you're going to lose. So one of your guidelines when you are applying the market development strategies is that the organization should be successful at what it does. When new untapped or unsaturated markets exist, again, we are speaking about saturation of the markets. When you know that some areas, there is no one have entered that market, or there's still a room, that market for your product is still not saturated, so there is still a room for you to expand. Like, for example, if you are producing, let's say, tablets, okay? An organization that produces tablets, and you know that some countries in Africa is willing to have that new technology or tablets, but there no one was going there, or no organizations are selling there or producing there. So you believe that it would be good for you to touch that new market because it's not touched before, or it's not actually saturated, so there is a room for you to produce and add in that new geographical area. In that case, you get more profits. Another guideline is that when an organization has the needed capital and human resources to manage that expanded operation, that's a similar guideline to the integration strategies, if you remember. Because here, you are going to a new geographical area, so you have to make sure before taking that decision that you have the enough capital needed, you have the enough human resources needed to manage that expansions. Another guideline is that when the organization has excess production capacity, there is already a chance for you to increase your production. Your organization will be able to do that, in fact. So that's also is one of the guidelines when you are thinking about the market development strategy. Another guideline is that when an organization's basic industry is rapidly becoming global in scope, meaning your industry where you are working, let's say technological industry, for example, of course it has a global scope. So if you are planning to open a new market or enter a new market for iPhones or for tablets or for anything related to technology, it will be accepted globally and worldwide. Though again, during these periods we are started to question globalization and their impact due to coronavirus, but anyway, there's still, when you're talking about market development, one of your guidelines is that your organization is actually has a global scope. So in that case, you are looking for expanding into new market. Okay? So to sum it up for that strategy again, when you're talking about market development, you're talking about introducing the same products or service, but to new geographical areas. And the guidelines, you have to make sure that you have channels of distributions that can be good quality and inexpensive. You're really good at what you are doing. The new markets already exist and they are not saturated, and you have the enough capital and human resources needed, and already your industry has a global in scope. Then, moving on to the third type of intensive strategies, which is called product development strategy. Product development strategy means you are talking about increased sales through improving or modifying present products or service. We are talking about the strategy where you are looking to increase your sales through improving or modifying your present products or services. So if you talked about, for example, the new Apple Watch, okay, it's a kind of wearable computer that you wear on your hand, right? So it's actually a new and improved product, a new product, modified, okay? And that, of course, if you think about it, developing new products, in that case, requires actually large R&D development, large R&D expansion, okay? What are the guidelines that we need to do to have a look at when we are talking about the product development? First is that your organization already has successful products, okay? So you are looking to attract satisfied customers. You have customers that are already satisfied with your products, so they are willing to try your new improved product as a result of their already good experience with your current product. Remember here, when you're talking about product development, you're talking about a new product, an improved product, okay? Modified product. So it's not the same product like we have been talking about when we talked about market penetration or when we talked about market penetration or market development, okay? It was the same product, but in a new geographical area when we're talking about market development, or same product, but we are making just more marketing effort for the same product. But here, when we are talking about product development strategy, we are talking about a new or an improved product or modified product or service. So when you're choosing that strategy, first of all, you have to make sure that you already have customers that will be on your back, to be already supporting you, because they were willing to try your new products because they are already satisfied. They have a trust in your previous product, so they are willing to try that new product. Okay? When an organization competes in an industry that characterized by rapid technological development. Of course, when we are talking about technology here, we have to talk about that's changing rapidly, so you have to make more developments when it comes to your products so that you can cope up with that technological changes. When your major competitors offer better quality products at comparable prices. If you found that your competitors in the markets are actually producing good quality products with a better prices or prices comparable to you, so you start to think, what would I do to be able to compete with them? Then you might think that, okay, how about getting into introduce a new product that will be able to compete with their products? So in that case, you are looking for a new product that will help you gain a more competitive advantage with regard when it comes to competition. And one of the guidelines, you have to make sure that you already competes in a high growth industry. There is a room for you to grow. The industry is actually offering this for you. And the last guideline here, when you already have a strong R&D capabilities, do not expect to produce good products or new products or modified products if you do not spend enough money, if you do not have a strong team of researchers, if you do not have an R&D department that's actually developed and up to date and so on, so that they can produce for you a new product. Okay? So to sum it up with that strategy again, when you're talking about product development, we are talking about trying to strategy that the organizations will be applying in order to increase their sales by improving or modifying the present products or services. So you're producing a new product or improved products than the current one that you have continued to produce for a long period. And you will do this when you make sure that you already have a successful products that already liked by the customers. Okay, so they will be trusting you, so they will be looking to try that new product. Or when you are competing in an industry characterized by rapid technology, okay, and at the same time, major competitors already produce things with the compatible prices and is still good quality. And when your organization actually is competing in a higher growth industry. And of course, don't forget to have a strong R&D department. Okay, so this goes 3 types of the intensive strategy. Moving on to another type of strategy that we call it diversification strategy. Diversification strategy, we are talking about from the word diversification. So you're introducing something and then you try to diversify what you are working at. We compare between two types of diversification. The first one is called related diversification, and the second one is called unrelated diversification. Related diversification means adding new but related products or services. Adding new but related products or services. What does it mean when we are talking about related diversification? Let's take an example so that make things clearer for you. When Apple, for example, okay, you used to buy things from Apple and you can pay online through PayPal or different online ways for payment. Now, Apple have introduced something to diversify into a banking business with some new products, okay, that you can buy through Apple themselves. Maybe that example is not that clear. Let's take another example. You want to diversify a product, meaning you already produce something and you want to produce another thing, but that is related to your own original products. Let's take the example, for example, of Dumpty sandwiches, okay? Dumpty is an organization that was actually producing mainly known for cheese. They have other product lines like juice and so on, but the main things is cheese, right? So they thought about diversifying their products, introducing new products, but they will be related to their own product that they are producing, which is cheese. So they started to introduce Dumpty sandwiches, right? So Dumpty sandwiches, it depends on cheese, and actually it's still a new product, which is a sandwiches, but is related to their original product that they are producing. It will be including similar value chain process, okay, that they will be going through when they are producing the sandwiches. They thought about why, for example, we have they do not have other big competitors that were actually producing cheese sandwiches that you can grab, okay? So what could be the benefit? What could be the synergies related to or associated with related diversification? The synergies, remember the synergy when you used to say 1 + 1 is greater than 2? So that's the same meaning here when you are trying to apply related diversification. First, you'll be having or already have the technological know-how, or you are trying to transfer other capabilities from one business to another, or you are trying to combine the related activities of separate businesses into a single operations to achieve a lower cost. You are trying to make use of your brand name. Like for example, here in the same example of Dumpty, already people know Dumpty, right? And he loves cheese. And they know Dumpty. So when Dumpty is the one who is actually producing a cheese sandwich, then in that case, so you will be trusting that name. So if there is a high chance of probability that you go to buy a Dumpty sandwich compared to a cheese sandwich made by an organization that's not actually a cheese organization. So you are looking for the brand name here. You already have the technology. You already have, they are trying to, you're trying to here, as we said, combining between the related activities of separate businesses. Okay? Right. What are the guidelines that you should be using when you are applying related diversification? The first thing here is that when an organization competes in a no growth or a slow growth industry. Okay, it's not an industry that is changing so quickly, that is changing so rapidly. Okay, it has to be slow growing. Do you remember? That's the opposite for the guideline that was found for the integration strategy. Do you remember when I said when you integrate, the market has to be growing fast and there is a room for you, so that when you want to diversify, there's not going to be, it's the opposite here. So here we are talking about that you are competing in a growth or no growth industry. Another guideline for the related diversification strategy is that when you're adding new but related products would actually enhance the sales of your current products. So when you add that new product that's related to your products, that will already increase the sales of your current products. That will help increasing the sales of the products that you are already choosing. Okay. Another guideline is that when new but related products could be offered at a highly competitive price. If you can produce that products, that new related products, and sell it with a price that's highly competitive, then go for related diversifications. Okay? When the organization products are currently in the declining stage of the product life cycle, when you already, you know that any product has a life cycle, starting to produce that product has a life cycle, but your current product, you're already declining. So adding that new related products could make kind of refreshment for your current product. And of course, you have to go for related diversification when you have a strong management team. Okay? So again, when we are talking about related diversification, we talk about adding new but related products, okay, for the ones that you used to produce. The second type of diversification strategy is called unrelated diversification, meaning adding new but completely unrelated products or services that you used to produce. What does it mean? Let's take an example. Do you know Mars? Of course, the chocolates and M&M candies. It's an organization that actually produces candies, okay? Now, surprisingly, they became the world's largest pet food company. Pet food, okay? Not candy, but pet food. They are selling food for pets. When they have purchased actually 80% of Procter & Gamble pet food brands. So here, they used to produce chocolate, but they decided to diversify, meaning add new products, but not related. It's not related to the market of candies. They are getting into a completely different market. It's completely not related to them, which is selling food for pets, not for humans. Okay, let's take another example for unrelated diversification. Honda company. Honda produces car, right? Then they have diversified by developing and producing the business jet. And they called it Honda Jet, okay? They produce jets. So it's not cars, it's something completely unrelated. The production is completely different, okay? The value chains are so dissimilar, they're completely different than the chain that you have that's used to produce cars, okay? So when you're doing or thinking of unrelated diversification, you try to search across different industry for a certain organization that you can acquire for a good deal, that you can buy for a good deal, but still when you buy it, there is a high potential that you can get high return on your investment. Okay, so you are looking for organizations that are actually financially distressed, but still have high growth prospects. They just do not have enough investment capital that you will have or that you have. So when you acquire that organization, you are expected to get high return. Okay? So for the unrelated diversification, remember here that you are adding new products, but they are unrelated to the product or the service that you are used to produce. Always remember the example that will help you remember the definition of the diversification, whether related or unrelated. So when I'm talking about unrelated, here I'm talking about M&M that produces candies, but now they diversified to produce pet food, something completely different, requires different value chains. But when I'm talking about related diversification, for example, I'm at Dante Cheese organizations. I produce cheese and then I produce the new products, okay? But it's related to my market. Those who buy cheese were expected also still to buy sandwiches, okay? So what are the guidelines for the unrelated diversification? When revenues derived from an organization, current products would increase significantly by adding the new unrelated products. So you have to make the study carefully before you go for diversification. Meaning, will this add more to my revenue? If I entered in a completely different market, if I added a new unrelated products to my product line, will this increase my revenues? If yes, then I will go for that strategy. When an organization competes in a highly competitive or no growth industry, the industry is not growing that fast. Okay, remember these guidelines when you are talking about an organization that is growing fast or an organization that's not growing fast. So here when you're talking about diversification on unrelated diversification, so I'm talking about no growth industry. Also, when the organization present channels of distribution can be used to market the new products to current customers, okay? When the organization present channels of distribution can be used to market the new products to the current customers, meaning here, you already have channels of distribution that you can use to market for your products. You're not going to look for a new channels of distribution that will be costing you or adding more to your cost. So you can use your current channels of distribution. Another guideline, when the organization's basic industry is actually experiencing declining annual sales and profits, meaning you already have some kind of, your sales are not increasing, they're actually declining, you have a declining profit, so you thought, if I diversified, that might add to my revenues and that might add to my profits. If I added new unrelated product, that might increase my revenues, okay? And then continuing with the guidelines for unrelated diversification, we can say that when an organization has the capital and managerial talent needed to compete successfully in the new industry, when the organization again have the capital, have the management team that will help her compete. That's a key thing that you should find in these types of strategies. And when an organization has the opportunity to purchase that unrelated business, that is an attractive investment opportunity. What does it mean? It means that it will be a good opportunity for you to buy that unrelated business. That will be a good investment. If you found, like, you remember when we have mentioned here, organizations can be financially distressed, the organization that you are looking to buy, but there is still a chance that they can have more sales or chance for growth, but they just lack the capital. Again, when you're looking for unrelated diversification, as we said, and this is your guideline here, is that you're looking for an opportunity to buy unrelated business. Maybe that business is already losing, but you know that with the capital that you have and with the management team that you have, that will be a good deal, will be a good investment, will be giving you back more profits, because you'll be investing in that new industry that is unrelated. Another guideline is that when there exists financial synergy between the acquired and acquiring firm. Synergy, synergy, synergy. We're talking here about synergy, meaning that you are expecting that you gain more of financial benefits between your current firm, your current products, your current M&M candies, when you buy that new acquired firm, which is the pet company or Procter & Gamble pet company or pet food. So you know that that will add more to your financial synergy or add more to your finances. When existing markets for an organization present products are saturated, look carefully at this guideline. You remember in the other strategies we said that the markets are not saturated, one of the guidelines that they're already not saturated, so there's a chance for you to grow. Here, when we are talking about unrelated diversification, we say that existing markets for your present products are saturated. The markets for your M&M candies have been saturated so far. So you're looking to diversify, to enter new markets for the unrelated products, because you cannot increase with your current market for M&Ms. The market for your already present product is saturated, has reached its point, so there is no room to add more for that. So why don't I diversify so I can gain more profits? That's a key guideline when you are applying unrelated diversification. Okay, so to sum it up, for that strategy, we talked about, for the diversification strategy, we differentiated between related diversification. You diversify. Remember the word diversify, meaning you already produce you have a line of production or service that you used to produce, but you want to diversify. You want to produce something new, whether it is related to your current products or service, something related so that you can make use of the value chain that you already produce, like the example of Dumpty sandwiches, or you're trying to add new but unrelated products, like for example, I used to produce car, now I'm producing jets, or I'm producing candies and now I'm producing pet food. So it's a new line that is unrelated to the products or service that I'm currently producing. And why I'm doing this, of course, because I want to increase my profits and want to increase my revenues. And I have to make sure that I have the guidelines needed for each one of them. Okay, moving on to, just before moving on to the fourth strategy, let me remind you of a key difference between related and unrelated diversification. Related diversification should be actually based on some commonalities in markets, products, or technology. So it is related. If you remember again, for the market of Dumpty cheese, it's mostly the similar market, right? Using maybe similar technology. There's something common. The products, both of them are using cheese, for example. So you're based here that you have something common. That's why we call it related, right? So you're talking about something common. But for the unrelated diversification, it's something completely different. So what you are looking at more is profit consideration. So that's when you said you acquire an organization that might be losing, but you know that with your technology, with your capital investment, it will give you a higher return. So that's a key difference between related and unrelated. Related, based on you have a common markets, common products or technology, while for unrelated, you are making mostly based on your profit consideration. Do diversification strategies is so popular or not? In fact, diversification strategies are becoming less popular. Why do you think that's possible? Because organizations, in fact, find it harder to manage diverse business activity. Most organizations can hardly manage their own business, compete in the same market. So now you are adding a completely different market, either related or unrelated, but something diversified. So sometimes it's harder to manage. Okay, and also with the new technology and new products and new shifts in customers' preference, make it diversification more difficult. Again, when you are talking about diversification strategy, we say it's becoming less popular. Not so many organizations prefer to go for diversification strategy because it's harder to manage different businesses, and because the change in technology, the change in customer preference, the having new products, then it's harder for you to manage. If you just talk the example of M&M, right? You are a candy organization that have been for years producing candy. So you know what technologies. You can adapt quickly to the changes in customer preferences. You can adapt, you can compete. If you have a new Cadbury producing a new product, then you can try to compete with them and so on. You have that experience. But as you see, you have entered a new pet market, something completely different. If it requires, maybe pet food does not require that kind of technology, but let's say if people preferences change it, or you do not have that updated things, you do not have that kind of experience or that kind of um, um, awareness of the customer's preferences and so on, so that might be harder for you to manage compared to your current products or services that you have already been producing for long. But does this mean that organizations do not go for diversification strategies? Of course not. Still, some organizations go for that, but looking for the guidelines first. If you find these conditions apply, then it might be good for you to go for diversification strategy. Okay, moving on to the last type of strategies, which is called defensive strategies. Okay, from the word defensive, you are trying to defend yourself, your organizations, to be able, in fact, to continue in the market. Defensive strategies can be divided into three types: retrenchment, divestiture, and liquidation. Retrenchment means you are trying to regroup through cost and asset reduction to reverse declining sales and profit. Again, retrenchment means how it occurs when the organization tries to regroup through cost and asset reduction to reverse a declining sales or profit. What does it mean? It means your organizations are losing now. You have a declining sale. You have declining profit. So what you should do? Should you integrate? No, in that case. What you should do? You should do or apply a turnaround or a reorganizational strategy or a retrenchment strategy. That strategy aims to look for your basic basic competitive or basic competence that you have. You are trying to reduce the cost, reduce your expenditure, okay? Like, for example, let's take an example. If you sell off land, or if you reduce number of the employees in your organizations, that can be considered a retrenchment strategy. Why I'm doing this? Why reduce the number of my employees? Because I want to raise the needed cash to be able to continue in the market. So my strategy here is cost reduction, asset reduction. Asset reduction, so I'm selling part of my land or buildings that I do not need. I just need more cash. I need cash, so I will be selling that. I will be reducing the number of my employees. I may be closing some businesses that I can believe that they are marginal, they are not that important for me, so I might close them. Okay, I might go for automation, so that will help me reduce the number of the employees, that will help me reduce the cost. Okay, so all these are examples of retrenchment strategy. Okay,